Hi, everybody. I hope you're doing great. So I am going to do this video backwards a little bit because I filmed some this morning, but I wanted to add on the front end some questions that I got. I've been putting them off, and I realized I don't really want to do that because they're pretty good woo-woo questions. And I got them a while ago, so I haven't really seen them. So I thought I'd just run through a few of these. Kitty Catcell says, my question is about time. How does time differ there from here? In other words, the other side. How is mom talking to me if she has possibly reincarnated? Is that the oversoul? Is it also linear time? Can we reincarnate backwards and forwards? Okay, there's a lot of questions, but thank you for that, Kitty Cat Cell. First of all, I believe in soul groups. And while one might reincarnate sooner than others, I believe that for the most part, our soul group waits for us if we're kind of like the last one lagging behind, and then we sort of start over. So your mom could have reincarnated, but I find more often than not, a lot of reincarnation happens like 100 years. In linear time. In spirit time, there is no time and space there. Everything is like linear time is like this, and on the other side, it's like a ball. It's like all in there. And that is the only way I can even wrap my own human brain around it as far as a concept. And let me see if I answered all of that in that little, can we reincarnate backwards and forwards? I think if it is all one ball, where there is no time and space, it's all just like this. I do believe that we can go backwards and forwards. And I think the timeline as it is now, where the earth is in danger of even existing in 100 years or so, the way that we have battered this planet, there may not be anything to come back for here. So we can either go backwards or we can go elsewhere. That would be a whole different video. But I do believe that we don't always come back here to the earth. Why can't there be other places, right? There has to be. There has to be. It's so arrogant for us to think we are the only ones in the universe, or the only universe among universes. So that might have been a roundabout, but I hope that answers your question. And thanks again. Vicky Eichenlob, V3D, says, love your woo-woo and am very interested in developing my own. How do I start? Is meditation a good way to contact spirit guides? Are there other ways? Meditation is the main way. If you look at gifts, we all have gifts, but I want you to look at gifts like under a Christmas tree, for instance. Some might be a little tattered, the bow has come off, and it's just easier to unwrap, where others are really tight and you've got to really pull that ribbon. So we all have gifts, but some are just easier to develop than others. And I would say, unless you're just natural, some people just, like mine was hard to develop, but it started naturally. I would have dreams that would come true as a kid. And then I got curious. Did I really have something here that I could develop? Meditation was key for me. But I will say this, there's all kinds of meditation. It doesn't have to be hard. you can look into that. Guided meditations, candle flame meditations, there's all kinds. And we'll touch on that in another video. But that would be the main. Are there other ways? I think along with meditation would be practice. Get yourself a deck of cards. And I think that takes the pressure off you because you can pull a card and then look it up. You can ask questions and see how relatable the answers are in textbook. That keeps you from having to do the interpretation. Okay. So I think that, while that might seem like a crutch, but it's an aid, it's training wheels, and it's very helpful actually. So I would do that, and I would do some prayer exercises to just talk to them, write letters to your guides. You don't have to know who they are. Just know that they are there. And put gratitude in the universe. Major, major, major. Because when you're asking for answers, and the more love you put out there, the more you come back. They don't tend to interact quite as much or in the same way with really negative people. I mean, they're here because negative people need them just as badly, but they're going to be busy trying to fix their life and helping them make the right decisions, not really saying, okay, yeah, let's have a conversation. So it's harder for people that are really negative to open their gift. And if you're not ready, you're not ready. Okay, that was a long one. Thank you for that. I appreciate it, Vicki. Okay, so let's take one more today. So Allison Simmers 600 says, how to know who is my spirit guide and why don't they stop others from doing evil? Okay, so just in the last question, hopefully that helped you, Allison, but the second part of your question is very interesting. Here's the thing, we came here for free will. I don't think God wants us to suffer, but there are people here that are not good. I think that we're all innately good. I mean, souls are good, but we come into a lot of challenges in these bodies that have chemical imbalance and mental illness. And I think any kind of evil doing is coming from that, which resides in the ego, which is a human trait. Even what seems like evil, there is a soul in there that didn't agree to do that. And sometimes when someone dies, I really feel like the first thing their spirit does is say, oh crap, it wasn't supposed to be like that. But we don't all overcome our challenges. So if there's an agreed upon lesson before you come here, your spirit guides' jobs are not just to help you, but they're also not supposed to interfere with certain karmic events. And I hope that helped you. Okay, that said, I'm going to present this morning's video that I did in the car because I was at a doctor's appointment and had to get blood work and all that. So thanks for being here, and please pose some more questions. I've got a couple here on the list that I'll do next time, but keep them coming. I appreciate it and appreciate you, and let's get going. Hi everybody, hope you're doing great. I am not feeling great, but I'll save that for my other channel. I'm actually here for an appointment, sitting in the lot, and I thought, hey, got a little time. And I thought I'd tell you a story today. I was at Tracy's last night, and I had told her a story. I don't know how this came up, but in the middle of it, it was like, wow, this would be really good for my YouTube viewers. All like 275 of them, I think. Maybe not even that much, but thank you, each and every one of you, for being here, by the way. It's kind of a new channel. If you can share it, like, subscribe, comment, it helps. It really does. So I'm hoping that I will remember the story in order, because this happened in my, I was about 33. And I had a different husband. And hopefully I will remember the details. That's, the details are important here. All right. So I just had blood work. I have to drink coffee. Sorry. I didn't even have a Wawa near me, but a Turkey Hill will have to do. It's not really bad coffee, so you can put a little flavor in it. But their coffee's always a little old, unfortunately. It's okay. I need caffeine. I was getting a headache. So it was the early 90s, I guess. And my then husband and I were getting a divorce. But unfortunately, like a lot of people, we had to live together under the same roof for a while for financial reasons, so that we could work things out, So there was a plan. We had a small house, and he said in February he would be able to buy me out of the house. And, that wasn't going to be a lot of money, to be honest with you, because we really had very little equity in it. We only had it a year. But we figured out what, if we did sell it, how much it would be, and we would split that. But I didn't need him to sell it. I knew what was fair. So he said in February. This was like in the fall sometime. And I was okay. So I don't know how we worked it out, if I was sleeping in the guest room or whatever. So at the time, I was developing my career as a medium, and I was seeing people on a little porch we had that was enclosed, and I had a little reading room there, and we would use the living room as a waiting room if there were more than one person that came. So on this particular day, it was a Saturday, and there were 4 girls that wanted a reading. So that's fine. There was actually 5, but I had already read for the 5th one more recently. So she said she would come a little bit later and join the girls, and they would all go out to lunch or dinner, something. Okay. Oh, wait. Some of the details probably aren't as important. So I was reading for one of the girls in the reading room, and we were talking about her husband, who was a fireman, and she worried about him a lot because he worked very hard. I do remember that. The last girl, who was just joining the other girls but I wasn't going to read for, showed up, and she went into the living room. Now, there was a door between, the 2 rooms, and she interrupted the reading, and she knocked on the door, and she said, "There's a brown spot on your wall in the living room. Is that just an issue you've been having with water or something? Because the fireplace is right next to it." I said, "No, there's no brown spot on the wall." And so we knew the house was catching on fire, as I'm reading for someone whose husband is fireman. So I run into the bedroom that I think he was in the guest room at the time, taking a nap with the dog. And, he said, "Everybody get out," and I'm on the phone with 911. And after that, we all cleared out. Firemen came. And here's the thing, and I got to backtrack. I just wanted to give you those details first, and then I got to backtrack about how this came together. I was, at the time, studying automatic writing. And if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like getting messages from spirit and writing them down as notes. Now, there is probably no perfect automatic writing, but I had tucked them away in a drawer, and I'll come back to that. In the meantime, I have to just turn this air on. If I'm having a hot flash, must be the coffee. Good Lord. Anyway, oh, I see what's happening here. All right. I wasn't getting the air on my face. So I tucked this stuff away, but I was practicing and backtracking to when we had decided to get a divorce. I had a friend who had said, well, where are you going to go? And what are you taking with you? You know, just curious. Well, I hadn't really thought about it a lot because I was like, it's not going to be a lot of money. And I really don't know where I'm going at the moment. But I was thinking Virginia. My brother lived there. She made me think. And I said, you know, the bedroom set I really want. It's antique. It was special to me. And maybe this piece and that piece and, you know, the rest I would just leave here. So we'll come back to that. And after the fire, I realized that those exact pieces that I wanted were the only things that were saved. Everything else either burnt or had smoke damage or water damage. And I thought that was my first wow. The second thing was the day of the fire, I had said to him, you know, it's February. Where's my money? You know, I mean, I want to get out of here. It's time. We weren't really getting along. And he said, I'm working on it. And I said, what is it going to come out of thin air? I'm sure I was very snarky like that because I remember saying that all those years ago. And the reason I remembered was because in the end, it was that insurance money that allowed me to walk. And some of the renovations to restore the place came out of his pocket because he was able to pay on time. So I was able to walk away with some money. And I was like, wow, you know, like talk about spirit looking out for you. It's amazing the way the universe works. I got what I wanted and what I needed. So I was packing and I went into the dresser drawers and that's where I had kept these writings. And it was always gobbledygook. I've since improved so that it is more up to date. But one of my guides is named Ayoshi. And I always felt that I was working with Ayoshi. But when we first were introduced, Ayoshi would speak in biblical terms and, you know, thine shall see in the days of wine and roses. Or, you know, it was just always gibberish to me. I mean, beautiful, poetic, but I didn't understand the meaning. And that's why I tucked it away. I'm like, I don't know if that means something. But it ended up meaning something later. And it wasn't like what the sentence I just said. But it said, first of all, the south winds will blow. And there was more to it than that. But I did end up moving to Virginia. And it was south. It said, and this one was the one that blew me away, be wary of the fifth golden one who can see. It was the girl, the blonde, that I did not read for, that came in and told me basically the house was on fire. And she was the fifth golden one who can see. Be wary means pay attention to. And it was like this was all planned. The whole part of the fire problem was that my then husband had put a door flame in the fireplace to start the fire and then threw wood on top of it. Never do that. Never do that. It makes it too hot. And it was one of those freestanding, I don't know what they call it, the freestanding fireplace with the pipe that goes up. And it was like red enamel. So I don't know if that was also a problem because it wasn't surrounded by heavy duty, brick and things like that. But yeah, never do that. The other thing was that we had to live in a hotel for a little bit. That was really fun. So with the dog, who was about to give birth, by the way, and she was overdue, and the vet said, well, she's waiting to go back home to give birth. What do I know, right? So we had to take her in to get induced. And I didn't want her to get pregnant to begin with, to be honest with you, because she wasn't a motherly one. I knew she would reject her babies. And she had 2 pups. One died, and the other one she just totally rejected. And it was very sad, but he wanted that to happen. And I understand that, but I just knew it wasn't going to work out. I knew she would not be happy about having children, about having pups, but they're children. So while we were watching some of the progress to make the house habitable again, I took some pictures, right after the damage. And there was one in the attic. The attic is where it started. I mean, yeah, because it's where the ceiling and the wall met, is where the brown spot started. And the fire was just too high, because it was too hot. Never do that. Remember that. So these were the days you got pictures developed. Although I think this might have been a Polaroid. I don't know what it was that we took. But when I got the picture back, or developed it, there was this swirl, like it was just a funnel, which is also known in paranormal, realms as, ectoplasm, a funnel ghost, maybe. And there was what looked at the top of this column looked like a flame. It was all white smoke. And it looked like something on the side, like a face, was blowing on the candle. I don't know what that meant. I don't know if somebody created that circumstance where they were saying they were blowing the smoke around, or whether they were putting the fire out. I didn't feel sinister. I felt it was more something validating that they created the circumstances. So we made the newspaper. And because the next day, with all the neighbors were out that night and, watching this, as it turned out, the firehouse was just down the street. And they had a new pumper truck, or some kind of new fire truck that was all, a brand new model that was very cool. And so all of the firemen, all the volunteers were at the station at the time of the fire because everybody wanted to see this truck. Okay, is that weird? That under no other circumstances? We made the paper because they said that the house would have burnt down if they hadn't all been there. Okay, just wanted to share this little story with you. It's not something I'm ever going to forget. I do forget details because, I'm not getting any younger. But yeah, that was kind of one of those things where when you put things out in the universe and you put forth plans, especially plans that are better for you. I mean, leaving that marriage was good for me. And it was probably good for him as well. But when you put forth your plans, the universe has a way of making it happen for you. The only time I feel that won't happen is if your plans are unreasonable, or if that's not something you agreed to in life. I feel anything that was deconstructed in my life, anything, wasn't a waste of time. It was always life lessons. I learned and grew from that relationship. And I went on to get to the next lesson. Not everything is a series of lessons, don't get me wrong, but you have to think of things like this, like connecting the dots I was scratching my head for a long time. But the south winds did blow, and I did go to Virginia, and I stepped in some more drama, but it got me there. It got me there. So anyway, I hope you're having a great day, evening, night. Please hit that subscribe button. Feel free to go follow my Cancer channel if you have not come from there to begin with. Because like I said, this is new, and I'd love to get some more cross viewers watching both, and my story for the day. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.